Hello and welcome to a new Yarnflakes podcast. My name is Audrey. I am a knitwear designer from the southwest of France, and this is a podcast where I talk about all of my knitting creations. So, yay! I have quite a few things to share with you this time. I have two new design releases that I've been publishing in recently and that I would like to talk to you about. And I also have two works in progress, which I'm very excited about. They're all very different projects, so that should be quite fun. And if you want to find a project in particular or skip anything, feel free to look at the description with timestamps in the video description. I messed up my sentence and it sort of doesn't make much sense anymore, but you get what I'm saying. I do have a little fan running at the moment, so if you hear a faint noise, that may be it. Hopefully it's not too bothering. But yes, I also put links in the description to everything that I talk about, the patterns and the yarns that I'm going to mention, as well as the Go Away Fly. I don't know why you specifically want to stay there. You're distracting me. Links to patterns and yarns I'm going to mention, as well as links to my social media platforms and my patterns, which are for sale on Ravelry, Payhip and Lovecrafts, and my Patreon page if you would like to support my business and have access to some behind the scenes content. Everything is on Patreon. So, yay! Let's start with what I'm wearing, which is a new design that I just published, and it is the Elanide sweater. This is your basic top-down raglan fingering weight sweater. So you start at the top with the back of the neck, here, and the shoulders. You shape a rounded neckline, and then you go downwards, very simple. You put the sleeves on hold, and then you knit the body. You knit it however long you want, same for the sleeves. And the finishing touches are all in twisted ribbing. Here and here. And then you pick up... Go away. I'm afraid if you're too close to the microphone, you're gonna buzz away. And then you pick up stitches for... Go somewhere else. It's fine. The room is big and you're small. Why do you have to be there? Oh, stubborn. Then you pick up stitches for the neckline and you knit the neckline as well. Typical raglan fingering weight basic. This is really like a simple canvas that you can do whatever you want with. As you can see, mine is stripy. The stripe sequence in the pattern is written separately, so the instructions are basic stockinette, and if you want, you can do the stripes. So you have the instructions on how I made my stripes, but you can pretty much do anything you like. You can use the different numbers of colors. You can do thinner stripes, one big, one thin, whatever you like. You could also have fun with some texture, like why not use a lace weight, maybe mohair one, if you want to have some transparency and fluffy textures in some of your stripes. There is a transition row with slip stitches, which sort of blends the colors together, but that as well you can skip if you prefer a neat stripe. And yes, the sweater is intended to be worn with either fitted or with just a little bit of ease, but that also, you know, if you want to do it differently, you can totally knit 1 or 2 sizes up. I would only advise that if you want it looser, maybe see if you want to adjust the sleeves and decrease more heavily so that they're fitted, in case you don't like them to be too loose, but you still want some ease on your body. Yeah, that's it. So, what's this? This is knitted in Artemis Yarns sock bases. Artemis Yarns is a French indie dyer. She makes a lot of different things, but what I really like about this particular brand that she has is she makes lots of very funny pop bright colorways, and she plays a lot with speckles and things. So the minty bluish color with ochre speckles is Zephyr. The pink here with ochre speckles and some sort of bluish things as well is Lullaby. The purpley lilac-y one is Lavender Field, and you can see it also has ochre speckles. And the color in between is something a little bit different. This is our Selene base. It's also merino nylon, and it's marled, so it has 1 ply black and 1 ply white, undyed, and so it makes this marled effect, which is really gorgeous, and I really like it. And I kind of want to make a whole sweater again, just with the marled. And I think I will. You know what? I think I will. I do have some marled yarn from another brand, but I think it's too thick. I'll have to check. But yeah, so a few months ago in spring, I wanted something fresh and fun. I needed some colors, maybe some colors that are a bit unusual for me. And so I got this bunch of things, and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to put them all together, but if it doesn't work, well, I'll just make a fun set of socks or whatever. And then I saw that they all kind of had ochre speckles. I was like, genius. Perfect. It works really well. And so I wanted a little simple sweater, and I realized I didn't have a top-down raglan basic pullover. Not in this simple shape anyway. I do have a DK weight basic pattern, but not as a fingering weight. And if you've known the podcast, or if you've seen any of my designs, you may notice that I do like to do a lot of kind of messy, very different things. So maybe I haven't covered all the basics yet, and I don't really like redoing the same things. But from time to time, I notice that something is lacking, and I think it's fun to have simpler garments as well for that are more accessible. And so little by little, we're covering what's missing. And so yeah, that's what I thought of doing. That's why I thought of doing this really basic canvas top-down raglan with this specific shape. And that's it. So I use the merino nylon base, as I said. I really like using this sort of standard sock base yarn for lighter weight garments like this, because the superwash merino is not too hot for me, and I like it for transitional periods like this. And it's also nice and stretchy, which is good for a fitted garment, and it will retain its shape very well. And I also like how the colors and speckles look, you know, on superwash yarns. It's not that they look better, it's just that they look a bit different, and both are really fun. And for this types of color, I really like how it looks on this type of base. So that's kind of my thinking here with using this yarn. But because it's a basic pattern, you can use any type of yarn that you like, more natural, woolly, rustic, whatever that means. Yarns will work really well. You can also make a more summery version. Like this is more of a mid-season. We're coming into autumn, please, some point. So that's why I made a long sleeve. I'm trying to convince myself. But you can make a short sleeve version, you know, you can just stop wherever you want. And if you use cotton yarn, that would work just fine. If you do use something that has a bit more drape, I recommend that you get more ease, just because it's nicer for the summer. If you have drapier yarns. And yeah, that's it really for the specifics of this basic garment, which I hope you will enjoy. It was really fun to knit with all the different colors and things, and yeah, you can have a look at all my testers versions to see what they did with, whether they did stripes or not, because you can really have fun and do whatever it is that you enjoy. And if you like it, there is 15% off on Ravelry with the code Elanide for the release until the Sunday after the release of this video. That's a lot of release in one sentence, but you get what I mean. I think I've said it. Did I forget anything? I don't think I have. I don't think so. But I'm going to move on to another pattern release, which was a few weeks ago. I released the last pattern in the textured sock collection. So I have been releasing one sock pattern a month for a few months now. Basically, I have started with ribbing and simple cables, then we've done a little bit more different cables, then we've done twisted stitches, right and left twist, a more intricate looking motif. And now we're doing everything. So this was the collection that was bringing you towards more complex type of stitches, and we're finishing with the Mireine socks, which are a pair of socks which are cuffed down. I do want to mention, because sometimes when I present socks, people ask me if I would ever do toe-up socks. I really don't like making toe-up socks. Like, never say never, you know. Maybe when I would be less stubborn, I would, but I really don't like making toe-up socks for a couple of reasons. The main one is that I absolutely hate binding off in ribbing. I don't like the motion, and because for socks you need something stretchy, I dislike all of the elastic bind-offs I've tried. Whenever I say this, people always tell me, have you tried this one? Have you tried this one? Yes! I tried, not all of them, obviously, but I've tried a lot of them, and I don't like any. I don't like the look of them, I don't like how to make them. And the motion of making them. And the second thing is that my favorite heel is this. It's the heel flap and gusset. And when doing it toe up, I personally find like my brain does not compute really well doing it toe up. I think it's harder to adjust the width because you need to like know when to stop, and then you start increasing, and I don't like it. I've tried, so I don't say that I don't like something without having tried it a few times, and I have, and I just can't wrap my head around how to make a heel that suits me. So like I said, maybe in a few years, you know, I'll be less stubborn and I'll have found a bind off that I like. In the meantime, my patterns are going to be cuffed down. So if you're that type of person like me, these socks are knitted. You start with a twisted rib cuff. You make then this little motif, which is a band of lace, which is a fairly simple lace, a band of mosaic. And if you have never done mosaic knitting, it is very simple. It's explained in the pattern. The motif is adapted for each size. So there are 6 sizes in the sock pattern, and they all have their own chart so that it fits the same way. And once you've done the mosaic, which you do all around the leg, then you can start the slip stitch motif that is going to go down the entire rest of the foot. And you have 2 different heels instructions. My favorite is the heel flap and gusset traditional heel method, but you also have a German short row heel in the pattern. You have the instructions for that if that's what you prefer. And the motif instructions come charted and written. You have both. And voila. These were inspired by another design of mine, which is the Mireine shawl, which is a shawl that I released last year. This was a collaboration with 2 French dyers, the Le Chat qui Tricote and La Pelote Vagabonde. They contacted me and we together made a shawl using a skein from each of them. So this is an asymmetrical triangle, as you can see, and it mixes 3 different textures: the slip stitch over garter, the mosaic stitch, and this lace. And this is a really fun shawl to knit. I really like mixing different textures while each of the texture is simple. That's something I find really fun, and it makes a really nice and pretty airy shawl. Optional tassels, and yeah, that's the shawl that was released last year. And I saw it on internet first, but on Instagram first, but then on the internet. But then I saw it in real life at a festival, a knitter called Mireine. She basically took the stitch motif. Go away. Oh. This is gonna be my fly episode. You know how in all series they have an episode with a bug that makes them insane? Why? Why do you do this? She used basically the stitch patterns and she made them into a sweater. So the whole body of her pullover was in this slip stitch motif, and then at the bottom of the sweater she made a band of mosaic and lace, and it looked gorgeous. And I absolutely love when people get creative with patterns. You know, like, my design approach is, here, I made this, take it and do whatever you want with it. And I just love when people make modifications like this, even if it's just a little, you know, change so that it fits them better, their preference, I mean, or if they go completely in another direction like that knitter did, and I loved it. And they, I was very impressed. And it gave me the idea of doing the same thing on a sock, because I thought it would be really fitting for a sock design, and that's how the Mireine socks got to be, basically. And yeah, so they are now available. They've been published a couple of weeks ago on Ravelry, Pay Hip and Lovecraft, so that's it. And like I said, this is the last pattern of the textured sock collection. So a couple of years ago I did lace socks. This year I did, the thing is, the fan is pushing a bit of hair into my face. And this year it was textures, and I have planned for next year to do color. So the idea would be to play a bit with colors. I do have most of the designs planned. So yes, if you're someone who liked these little collections of sock patterns, I will also make some next year during spring and summer. And yeah, but these are the Mireine socks. The yarn that I used is the Regia Premium Yak yarn. So for the collection I've been alternating with using the silk version and the yak version. And this is the yak one, which is thicker. It really makes a super dense fabric at my regular sock gauge. And it also has slightly heathered colors and a really good stitch definition. I mean, if you look at how the slip stitches pop, and the lace is also really nice. Of the two, I think I prefer the yak yarn. The silk yarn, I've mentioned it before, is really soft. It has a gorgeous stitch definition. It's shiny. I love how it looks. I haven't had pilling yet. However, other knitters have, and I can sense that they're a bit too weak for my preference. I prefer my sock yarns to feel a little bit more sturdy. So I think the Regia silk would be lovely in a shawl or something like this. But as socks, these are great. They're so thick and dense. It's going to be lovely. Yeah, so that's it. That's it for the two patterns that I wanted to shove in your face. And I'm going to move on to some work in progress. The first one is a pattern from Sari Nordlund. It is the Rosenlund top, which I've started about a month ago. I've really been... Where is my ball of yarn? I had a ball of yarn. Did I put it back there? Maybe. And I really, I've waited for her to publish it, like I bought it instantly. I really like this top, so yay. This is a sleeveless top with a texture panel on the front and on the back, and moss stitch on the edge. It's simple moss stitch, not double moss stitch. And so you knit it top down, so you start at the back, you shape the armhole, then you pick up for the front. And so, little knit bit, when you, what was that word? Not a word. When you pick up stitches here and you have a motif that you want to stay aligned, you do have to be careful to pick up in the stitches so that the motif stays put over the shoulder. So, like this. Good. See how it's straight, it matches, it's great. Not like this. Wrong, bad, boo, ugly. So yeah, I noticed it later, too late. And was I going to rip everything just to fix that? Nah. I've talked about this a few times. I am not a perfectionist. And I think it's my duty to be messy on purpose, to sort of compensate the amount of people who overthink things and who are too picky with themselves, really, and too harsh on their own knitting. I'm joking, obviously. Like, there's a pleasure in making something super neat and perfect, and I have this at times as well. But it's funny, I have it for certain things, and I don't at all for other things. And this is one of the cases where I was like, do I really care? It's gonna be just a line here. Who's gonna look at me like this? No one. I'm not that short. No one is gonna look at me like this. And I'm gonna have my hair on top of it. So, you know. But just a little mention that when you're in this situation and you know you want something neat, and you're not like me and you don't care, pick up in the stitches instead of in between. And it might be a bit difficult to see depending on your yarn, depending on the stitch pattern, depending on how comfortable you are picking stitches. But yeah, that's what you learn. So yeah, and I love it. I'm having so much fun. I did the finishing of the neck and on the armholes because I wanted it to be presentable. So for the neckline, for the collar, you pick up stitches and you knit in twisted ribbing, and it's folded, basically. So you knit a bit, you knit more, and then you fold it over. Usually, that's the case here. The patterns instruct you to bind off the stitches and then sew them on the inside. Sew them, not sew them. Don't sew the stitches. They have done nothing. And like tuck them with a whip stitch. Every time I've done that, I've tried a couple of times, it's too tight. I'm not someone who has tight bind-off issues. I make a lot of sweaters with rounded, rather tight necks. My bind-offs are very loose. I don't have that problem. I know a lot of knitters do. I'm not a tight binder-off. But this specific case, when I sew it down, it's always too tight. So I usually don't do this. And what I did instead is I just keep the live stitches. You know, I don't bind off, which also saves me some yarn. And I just sew the live stitches down as I go. Yeah, that also, for me, makes it a little bit easier. Because if the stitch is still on my needle, I can look down on it and see where I need to attach it so that it stays straight and the neckline doesn't shift. I really like the armhole edges. It's really simple. You pick up stitches from a slip stitch line and you do a thing. That's really basic. But it adds a little bit of a curly thing, and it's really neat. I like how it looks. This is really fun to knit. It's perfect for me. It's the perfect balance of something that captures enough of my brain. So the thing is, when I knit something simple, too simple, like this, for example, yeah, it uses the mechanical part of my brain, but it doesn't relax me because then my just thoughts go everywhere and it's tiring and I don't relax and I get distracted and I get like into 25 billion directions. Which is why I usually will watch a movie or a series, or if it's something basic like stockinette like this, I'm gonna read a book. On the other end of the spectrum is knits that really help me zone in and focus. And this is perfect. This is the perfect balance because, so it's rather simple motifs, right? You have the honeycomb sort of cables, really easy. You see that your stitches went this way now, so you know that you go this way. This is a thing which has a centered double decrease from time to time. You just need to check if you're on your row when you have to do it, etc. And you don't really have to follow the charts. Once you've understood how they're made, you don't really need to look at those. So you can only look at the center chart, which is not one that is not memorable. Memorizable. That's not a word. It's not really easy to memorize. But it's still simple things to do. So once you know what kind of row you're in, first of all, it's symmetrical, so you do the same thing here, and then the other thing is in reverse. And there is only one place, which is like here, where you do the patterning on the wrong side as well. So when you knit the upper body, you knit it flat, and then you join in the round. But while you're knitting it flat, you have a small part of the chart, where you have to do yarn overs and decreases on the wrong side. And it's still easy because it's lines like this, you know. So you follow the line. And yeah, that's like a really good balance because it keeps me engaged. It's super fun to see the motif grow, etc. And it's really satisfying. And at the same time, it's easy enough that it's not too demanding. So it really is something that really keeps that part of my brain like quiet and do this and let me relax. And it's fantastic. It's exactly the type of pattern that I love knitting, and it's great. It's great for me, and I'm having so much fun. And I've been knitting it rather slowly. I've been working on rather intensely on some of my own design work, knitting all day on secret patterns, and so I have mostly been knitting this in the weekend because in the evening I'm like done knitting, and so I've been making my progress slowly and really savoring it, so that's nice. And I will still probably, I don't know how long I'm going to make the body. You can see I've joined in around, probably going to be cropped, rather cropped like most of my garments, right? But yeah, I will still have a lot of wear out of it. It's usually top wearing weather appropriate to wear tops until like way end of September where I live. So I say this and it's going to be a nightmare and there's going to be snow in September. Absolutely not. But yeah, I am having a lot of fun. The only thing is I'm knitting size 3, so that's the thing. It often is the case for Sari's patterns, Sari Nordlund's patterns, is that I'm in between size 2 and 3. This just goes down to the fit preference that you have, right? And so that each individual has. And so for our sweater patterns, it's okay because often a sweater, I usually wear them with a lot of ease. And so I'm gonna knit size 3 and I'd be fine. But for tops, it's a little bit more difficult because usually tops, especially shaped like this, I don't want it to be too big. So what I'm doing is that I'm knitting size 3, but I do have a tighter gauge. I'm using my favorite summer yarn. I feel like I can say it because I love it so much. And I've talked about this a lot last year when I discovered it. It's Nordlund Summerside. I love this. This is 50% cotton, 50% silk. It's soft. If you don't like pure cottons, it's like, this is such a revelation. It's so drapey, you see, it's nice, it's light, it has a fantastic stitch definition. It's great. I've made a couple designs last year in stockinette using it, and like the feel and the softness and the drape, it's great. They have also a really nice color range and they're affordable. They're about €6.90 for 50 gram balls. They're sport weight, but I've knitted them at fingering and DK weight gauges and they're great. Love it. They have some heathered colors as well with one yarn, like more barber pulled. One yarn, one thread, one color, another thread, another color. But I wanted a red top I don't know why. I was like, I want color. So I got the red for this top. And I love it. But when I swatched my gauge, I noticed my gauge was tighter than the patterns. Much tighter. So... And I still liked the fabric. If I'm not mistaken, the pattern actually calls for decay, proper decay. So there's that. So that's kind of perfect for me, because normally, if I didn't do anything wrong, I'm knitting size 3, but because my gauge is tighter, I should land right in the middle between size 2 and 3, which is the fit that will work for me. I now will check my gauge, because now I have a substantial part of moss stitch on the body, and I will check to make sure that my measurements are fine. But that should be, like, visually, this will stretch a bit because of the lace, and I know the yarn stretches a tiny bit, but that looks fine for me. Maybe it won't drop as much as it does for Sari, but I do want to wear this as a summer top, not necessarily over a shirt, even though why not, because it looks cool. So I don't mind if it really stays well on my shoulder and it doesn't drop. So yeah, absolutely love this. It's really fun. It's gorgeous. I highly recommend it. Well, you know Sari Nordlund's patterns, and I really like how she writes her designs. They're neat and quick and easy to get. For me, it really works with my brain. Perfect. So that's one of the works in progress I am working on at the moment. And I wanted to show you another work in progress, which is... Okay, so... summer top. Big Aran weight cardigan. Make the switch in your brains. We're going to talk winter. So, it's another design actually inspired by a shawl. So I have this shawl pattern. I'm trying to not make everything fall. This is the Eidola shawl, which is another design of mine, which I released a little bit ago. It's really big, blanket-like. Literally use it as a blanket in the winter. Shawl with lots of different textures. And as I was knitting this design, especially this texture here, this is a really fun, weird motif. Basically, it's like a ribbing, 2 pearls, and 1 brioche knit stitch. Basically, you slip 1 yarn over and you stack it a few rows, like it's 4 or 5 times. You keep adding yarn overs to the same stitch until eventually you knit into it. And it's really easy to do, it's really fun, and you can also play with colors. And there's 3 color stripes here, and it makes this sort of tweed effect because you're changing colors on the wrong side, so there are blips of colors. So lots of things going on visually, but really fun to knit, really squishy, beautiful, visually intriguing fabric. And when I was knitting this, I think I already had in mind the project of making a cardigan with this motif. And it's been a while, but it's coming. And I got the perfect yarn for it, I think. I had in my stash these, which are Katia yarns, so Spanish brand. This is Katia Concept, upside down, Concept Cotton Merino. So it's a blend of 70% cotton and 30% merino. And basically, it's like a blown type of yarn. So you can see the white threads inside. It's like a night-cord made of white cotton. And then around is fluffiness of black wool. And it makes heathered colors. As you can see in the black, it's heavily heathered. And then the grey is pretty much, it's still nuanced, but it's pretty much just grey. And then, for example, you have the green, etc. and it's light and fluffy, and I really like this yarn. It has a decay weight meterage. There's 105 meters, that is 115 yards, to 50 grams. So 1 ounce and 3/4, whatever that means. So it's like decay weight, but when you knit it, it's so thick and it blooms, so you can knit it at an Aran weight gauge. And I really like this. It's the same thing when you're knitting woolen spun yarns, right? You can have yarns that have more meterage, and you can knit them up at looser gauge, but they fill up, so it's a perfectly balanced fabric. And I like this because you save money, you don't have to buy as much yarn, and it's really fun. And so I decided to try these in this motif, the one from the shawl, and I love it. See how it's a bit weird. It looks a bit like a optical illusion thing that I would that tried to mess with your eyes a bit. It's so neat and it's so fun. So the idea is to make a big cozy cardigan. Like I have a few patterns like this already, like the 9/8 cardigan, etc. Drop shoulder, slightly V front, but like it's open front, loose, nice, etc. Thick Aran weight, comfy thing, and I love it. This is the back, as you can see. It's gonna be like so. If I can position it properly, there you go. And yeah, I'm having lots of fun. Lots of things to say about this is it's easy to knit. The stitch itself is 3 stitches, 8 rows, and it's really visually telling. So I'm going to make a video. There was already a video for the shawl, but for this pattern I'm going to make a video to really help people see the motif so that they can easily maintain it, so that you can just, when you increase for the neck and the back here, you can just maintain the pattern easily. And it's really simple because you can see that you have like lines like this, and you know that here is 2 purls and here is the knit, 2 purls, the knit. And I'm gonna make a video showing how to knit it and how to read it. So hopefully that will make it super intuitive, because once you get in the flow of it, it's really fun and it has a nice rhythm to it. And yeah, so I'm alternating 3 colors for this one. You don't have to cut the colors of it. What a nightmare that would be. And I put in the patterns, I put instruction on how to carry the extra colors along the side. And I also put a little thing to remind you on which row to catch it. It's something that I often forget, to catch and carry colors. For example, for this sweater, whenever I often, like, there's 3 or 4 times where there's a long thread because I forgot to catch my yarn. And that's just a thing that I do. So in this pattern, I did a little thing so that you have a visual reminder of, oh, I need to carry my other colors. And yeah, this makes it really intuitive and really fun to work, I think, personally. So I've done the shoulders and the backs. In the back, I've done this is the armhole depth that I wanted, I think. And yeah, I'm going to pick up for the front, and this time be careful that it's aligned. And this will be really easy because, yeah, like I said, you pick up 2 purls, 1 brioche knit, 2 purls, 1 brioche knit. Well, 1 knit when you pick it up. And yeah, this is really fun to work. It's going to be super quick, and I'm going to make a second sample because I love the 3 colors together, but it's always a bit of a dilemma when I'm designing something. Is I want something, I want the sample to be in certain colors, right? And I'm always wondering, is this the right thing to show people? Will this help them visualize this in a version that they like? Not that I design specifically thinking, oh, will they like it? But it's like, for example, this sweater, right? It's a basic fingering weight sweater, but I made stripes. And I know that some people will see it and be like, oh, it's stripes, so I don't like it. But it's like, you don't have to make stripes. See? And I know that personally, when I see a sample from a designer in a specific color scheme or in a specific way, I have a really hard time seeing it another way. And it's like my brain just does not compute. For example, Stephen West's shawls, you know, he makes them in all those fun pop colors. And there's not necessarily the style that I like, which means that when I look at his patterns, I really, it's difficult for me to imagine making them more my own. And it's silly because there are so many people who do knit his patterns in a variety of colors. And there's, especially I'm thinking of a few Instagrammers that I follow that knit a lot of his patterns, but they always knit it in neutral, more minimalistic shades. And I'm fascinated by this ability to, you see something that's so bright and colorful and so its own thing, and you're able to change it so much by making it your own. And I have a hard time doing this personally, and I know others too. And so when I design my own samples, I'm always like, am I trapping the visual of the design in a certain way, and will it be difficult for other people to mod it? And so as I was knitting this, I was afraid that I was on the extreme, right, using 3 colors, etc. And I thought this would be so fun in just one color, just one, just to have the fun texture, just to have a minimalist, squishy. And you know, there's so much going on, like the little threads of the brioche, you can see all the yarn overs here, it makes like a little butterfly, the rows of pearls here, the ribbing itself. And so as I was knitting it, I thought, well, I will ask my testers, I will specifically ask them that if any of them wants to make it a monochrome, minimalist, one color version, I highly encourage it because I want to see it in one color. I kept knitting it and thinking, I want to see it in one color. I want to have it in one color as well. So I like both. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do the 2 extremes. I will have one sample like this in 3 colors. And I also want to make it a long cardigan. I don't know if I have enough yarn. That's kind of the downside of those type of yarn that have a gauge, that have a very freeing gauge. You may have noticed if you've ever knitted a woolen span for a worsted weight pattern or vice versa, that your yarn usage is all over the place. Happens to me a few times, knitting the same sort of pattern very close to one another, same gauge, 2 completely different amount of yarn used because one was woolen, one was worsted. And it's the same thing with this yarn. I am not confident yet in how much yarn I need, and I want to make it long. Ideally, I would want it to go beside the butt, not beside, over. And I'm not sure that I have enough, but I will try. Worst case scenario, I can buy more yarn. I'm gonna make the 2 fronts, make a little bit of the body, make the sleeves. This way I can go as long as I want. And I will make a 1 color regular length version. So the pattern will have all of those options, and I will have 2 samples to show. For the 1 color version, I ordered some yarn. It's a new yarn from the Regia Natura, a French brand, and it's their new woolen span cotton merino yarn. So they have woolen span yarns, Ulysse and Gilead and Cyrano, and they recently, this year, released woolen span, 70% merino, 30% cotton. And there's a sport weight one and there's a worsted weight one. And the worsted weight, which is like Gilead, if you know it, Gilead from the Regia Natura, it will work really well for this pattern. And the new one with cotton, it's basically the same yarn, the same thickness, except it has cotton. And I thought it would be really fun for this. So I ordered some of this in a white creamy color. It should be there tomorrow. I live very close. I don't know if they're in Toulouse exactly, but they are so close that when I order yarn at them, I get it the day, 2 days after, or even sometimes the next day, depending on the time that I order. But yeah, so that's the plan, making a second sample. And I have the time, and this design is planned for December. So, but I do want to have the 2 samples on the way so that I can show them to my testers. And I think I have the time to finish it in August, even though I kind of want to take, I plan to take a couple of weeks off most admin type of work. So also that means I won't be knitting as much because it would be sort of holidays. I will just stay there, but at home, but won't be working basically. But I do think I have time to make the 2 samples because it knits so quickly. Like I knitted this in 2.5 hours basically, and this is the entire back, upper back. That would be weird if it was just a back and it was supposed to go all the way down to my butt. But yes, but I think I'm gonna knit them at the same time, because if I finish one and then I start over for the second one, I'm gonna feel like I'm redoing the same thing. So the plan is I'm gonna pick up the 2 fronts, knit the fronts for this, knit the upper back and front as well on the one color one as soon as I have it, make the sleeves for this, make the sleeves for the other one, which is going to be, I'm gonna make 4 sleeves. Like, thank God it's Aran, right? I'm using 4.5 millimeter needles. Oh, do I have 4.5 sleeve circumference needle? I'm not sure. And I really don't want to magic loop this. I'll have to see. I do think I have small circulars in 4.5 millimeter. And once I'm both on the body on the 2 samples, I'll just go how long I want or can, depending on the amount of yarn that I have. But I should be able to get an idea of how much yarn you would need to make a long version and buy some extra if needed. So please don't buy these colors from Katya before I see if I need more. Don't put them out of stock. But yeah, that is it for this cozy, comfy cardigan. Yeah, it's fun to knit and I'm happy about the result. It's really fun and I hope you will like it as well, and I can't wait to see it in just one pure minimalist. It's gonna be so elegant. I'm gonna feel so fancy. I'm gonna have like the crazy version, and the crazy, I mean, it's still neutral colors so it's fine. But like, it's going to be so 180. I love it. And yeah, my goal, I haven't said, my goal is to make the hem cuffs, did I say it? The hem cuffs and neckband, I want to make it in the grey, because if I do it in the lighter, more subtle color, I think it's going to make it more cohesive and look cool. My plan is to make 3x1 twisted ribbing. Why not? Feeling original. But yeah, that's the plan, and that's what I've been knitting on, and I will be knitting on for a little while at the moment. And yeah, I want to finish this episode by giving you a little heads up that this year's mystery knit along is coming. So I will have a video coming up very quickly on Monday the 8th, the 2022 mystery knit along. I make colorwork cows mystery knit alongs, that's what I do. It will come on August the 8th. The pattern will be live. The mystery knit along itself will start in the last Friday of August. I think it's the 26th or something. But there will be a video. I'm gonna film a video for you explaining everything. So keep an eye out for this if you're interested in the colorwork mystery knit along. You can easily guess the theme. If you are on Instagram, I should have given a really not subtle hint at all. And yeah, I'm really excited for it, and I hope you will like it too. And yeah, that's it. So I will see you again in September. So you may have noticed that I did plan on making a podcast at the end of July, and I didn't. I feel like for the next few months, there will be only one podcast episode per month. The reason for that is that it's taking a lot of time to make podcasts, and I have a lot of time-consuming other work that I want to be doing at the moment. And I also feel like making the podcasts so often, it just felt more mechanical, and like I wasn't really chatting about details like I wanted to, and that I was just throwing at you, hey, I have a pattern, buy it. And maybe it's a bit contradictory, because if I release less podcasts, it means they're longer, and I have more stuff to throw at you in one. But I do feel like my problem is more about the frequency of recording rather than the amount of things in one podcast. So maybe I'm going to change my mind. We'll see. Maybe it's only going to be this month that there's only one podcast, but expect that there's only one podcast per month for the next few months. Maybe not, maybe it's not going to be perfect. We'll see. We'll see. And besides that, there will be, like I said, a mystery knit along video coming soon. And after that, we will see each other in September, I guess. Unless I change my mind, like I said, because I can't keep one straight decision more than 2 weeks. So, for more than 2 weeks. So, that's just how I work. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you again soon, and I wish you a very happy end of the day or night or whatever, whenever you're watching this. And yeah, take care.